with all the ice and all the snow that we've had in Sheffield, we really haven't had a chance to get out there filming and just really get on with some fishing, and that's why we're here today. We've come along today on this beautiful crisp morning. We're here at Newark Dyke, and I've taken the opportunity to come down here and just have a few hours fishing. I've brought Dad along with me. We was here for a beautiful sunrise, and we've just got a little bit of a wind hitting it now. It's been flat calm most of the day, but I just thought this would be a great opportunity to just blow away some of the cobwebs. I've got a feed rod set up, I've got a stick float set up as well, and it's also a great opportunity to have a look back at some of the highs and lows and some of the key moments from the last year. Well, the year got off to a great start with qualification for both the Boston Masters final and the Midlands Fishing Matches final as well, and that was in the space of about 10 days. Both of those competitions were at Boston Lakes, where both matches just consisted of fishing an ice cage feeder, fishing for skimmers and bream. The first one, the Boston Masters final, I managed to qualify by winning the section there, but then the following qualifier, I actually ended up winning the match. I had a lovely net of fish, 40 odd pound of skimmers, had some really nice bream there down in the 80s at Boston, and that just kicked off the year really nicely. After that, there was the odd open match. I headed off to Sprotborough, where I filmed a couple of live match films, and I know lots of you enjoyed those. The first one was a really interesting match. It was one where you really know that after about 2 hours you just don't think anything's going to happen. I ended up being I think I was second in the match that day with a lovely net of skimmers and bream, and it was just a case of just sticking at what you were doing. You had to make your mind up what you was going to do, and thankfully that paid off. I returned there the week later because I wanted to go back there and just see if I could repeat what happened, just with the same mix and fish the same style. However, the river it was actually coming up while we were fishing. We'd had a lot of rain the previous couple of days, and that really knocked the river off, unfortunately. I think I ended up winning the section with a few ounds, but that's part and parcel of fishing rivers at that time of year. Next up was probably our favourite trip of the year. We were heading back to Spain for the Iberian Masters, and I know there are lots of viewers to this channel that enjoy that trip. It's generally a little bit of a roller coaster, right from when I filmed the first one about 4 years ago, and I decided to film the whole trip again this year. It's such a frustrating event. Everything about the competition, the organisation, the hotel, the organisers, the competitors, and everything about it is absolutely first class, except the fishing, unfortunately. It's just always a battle, sometimes to even get a bite, and sometimes even when you are hooking fish, it can be very, very difficult to get them out. That's the nature of the beast, and unfortunately that is the only thing about that competition that won't change. It will always be like that. It will probably remain one of our favourite competitions on the calendar, but with exception to the very, very difficult fishing, it was a fantastic trip, thoroughly enjoyed, and it was great to go and have a week away in Spain with Dad. I've got to openly admit that returning from the Iberian Masters, I honestly felt that I just needed to go and catch some fish. Sometimes when you go through winter, you can find yourself having several sessions where you're just struggling for bites. That's the nature of winter fishing, and particularly if you're going in carp or F1 matches, sometimes you're sitting there waiting for 1 or 2 bites. The silverfish matches had kind of dried up a little bit by that stage, so I really, really wanted to go in a festival somewhere where I was almost guaranteed a few bites, and that is when I decided to book on to my first Irish festival for 2 or 3 years. So we decided to head on over to Ireland to go and fish the Mahon's Festival. For those of you that have seen the film from that trip, it is still available to watch right here on this channel. I'm sure you will have all seen the ups and downs, and once again, it's a typical example of what Irish festival fishing is all about, particularly in weight competitions, because you honestly feel like you're never really out of it, because you only need one really good day to get you back in it if you fall behind. However, it was a really tough week, and that competition, it is quite early on in the year. The fishing fishing is very, very patchy, and unfortunately, you know, I had more tough days than easy days, but it was an enjoyable trip, and it was the first Irish festival that I've been able to take Dad on. The digs at the Killyhevelin Hotel there were absolutely first class, and all the lads there, it was a great crack for the week. But like I said, the fishing was a little bit disappointing, but if you want to see a film that is real life, what it actually can be like fishing at an Irish festival, then I think that's a great example of what it can be like. Going through the summer, by this stage we were fishing a few Feeder Masters qualifiers, trying to get into that £12,000 Feeder Masters final at Tamar Lakes again, which is something that I really wanted to, you know, be part of again, you know. So by the middle of the summer I was going in some of the qualifiers up and down the country to try and get in that, and then our attentions turned to the Feeder National Championships. Now our Ringer Baits team was still very, very disappointed about our result in the previous year's World Club Final in Bulgaria, you know, and for me personally that's something that I don't know if I'll ever really get over that, you know. It was such a disappointing match. We'd love to go back and fish it again, but obviously you can't do that. So we were willing to give everything to try our very best to try and win the Feeder National Championship, which was going to be held right here on the River Trent. So we made it our main focus through the summer leading up to that event, to spend as much time as we possibly could on this river and just get to know as much as we could about it, and obviously get a feel for all the different stretches. We'd spent loads of time on the river, and we pretty much felt that big fish, whilst this river is full of bream and chub and barbel, they were far too unpredictable, and sometimes even if you fish for them and hook one, it wasn't always the case that you were able to land it as well. So from a team point of view, because obviously it's a team event, we felt that the small fish would be very, very important, and that's what we based our attack around. We fish with small baits, we fish with pinkies, we fish with maggots, tiny little pieces of worm, we fish for dace, for roach, anything that we could get. And if you could get a decent weight of those or be doing well in your section, we felt that if you were in a section or an area where you felt you could have caught some bigger fish, then that would warrant a quick look for them a little bit later on in the match once you'd caught your small fish. But for me personally, my match was right here. I drew at Newark Dyke on a very low, very clear river. It was a very tough match. I weighed just over 1 kilo, which, to be fair, all the way through the match, our target, or my target, was really £2. We honestly felt, and we knew that the section was fishing hard, that all the way down here, that if you could get £2, or at least £2, that would give you decent points. And for me, it was a very difficult match because the match just got harder and harder. However, I managed to get my kilo. I think it was just over 1 kilo, but the rest of the lads have done absolutely fantastic, and we actually ended up going on and winning the event. I still find it amazing even now, you know, the way that the day panned out. The lads have done absolutely fantastic in their sections, and we got on to win the national, which obviously meant then that we were Feeder National champions, but it also secured us a place in the World Club Final, which was going to be taking place in Ireland. Obviously, you know, we feel quite familiar with Ireland, we will be spending time there, but to secure a place there with all the hard effort and time that we put into the event, it was an absolutely incredible day. By this stage in the year, it had been very, very busy. We'd had some amazing opportunities to run some group coaching days throughout the year with both myself and Dean Barlow, and we met some incredible people. If you know, you are one of those anglers that came on any of those group days, thank you very much for your support, and it's great to hear your feedback about how much you enjoy them. We'd never imagined that we'd enjoy those group coaching days as much as what we do. I was actually also doing one-to-one coaching through the year, and with all the practice and everything leading up to the national and all the commitment, it was just a whirlwind of a summer. A little bit too busy, I'll be absolutely honest with you, and one or two aspects as regards this channel kind of suffered a little bit. I just wasn't getting time to go out there and produce content, but because of all that, I made the decision that as soon as the national championship was over, regardless of the result, I was going to be heading off for a few days with Dad to just go and have a little bit more of a holiday. As you'd expect, it did revolve around fishing, and as soon as the presentation for the National Championship was over, we jumped straight in the van and we headed south. We went to fish a river that I've never fished before. It was the River Lot in the south of France, and that was a trip where I could just go and spend a few days there, just kind of relax a little bit. Obviously I was going to be doing some fishing, as you'd expect, and I took the cameras along with me, and this was going to turn into the first ever series of a new video project that I had for this channel, and that was the very first edition of the Random Adventures. It was something completely different, and I even changed the way that I edited the videos as well, you know, and I really enjoyed filming that. I knew there wouldn't be a huge success right here on this channel because it's a little bit out of the norm, you know, but it was an exciting little adventure. It was quite tiring as well. There was a lot of driving involved, but it was a great opportunity to just sit by the river and just fish and just see what happens. After such a hectic summer, it was a break that both myself and Dad really needed. On our return from France, it was very much a case of focusing then on the Feeder Masters final. Now, quite a few people over the last few months have said, we don't remember seeing the live match from you from when you qualified for the Feeder Masters final. Well, to cut a long story short, I was second in my zone. I just missed qualifying way back in about April or May at Patsell Park. It was an incredible match, one where I focused on small fish and it really paid off. However, I still ended up second in the zone. However, the gentleman who won the zone, who qualified, who ended up winning the match, he hinted that he wouldn't be able to make the Feeder Masters final, and that was something that I kind of got wind of going through the year. So as it turned out, I ended up in the Feeder Masters final because he couldn't make it. And whilst I honestly feel as though I'm quite confident at Tamar Lake, it was at Upper Tamar again, I still felt like I needed to go down there a couple of days early just to get up to speed with the fishing. The water levels were going to be really low, and it was another very interesting final. It was one where it was always going to be dominated by skimmers or skimmer weights. There weren't really many roach weights, and the roach weights that they were getting there they weren't competing with the skimmer weights. So as you can imagine, you needed to draw areas where the skimmers were, and that's exactly what I did on day one. Day one, I drew a stretch or an area where there must have been about 20 pegs in a row where skimmers were feeding, and I got off to a really good start on day one. I won my section, which I was obviously pleased with. However, day two, that obviously meant that everything that we'd learned from day one, you really needed to draw on skimmers again, you know, to give you a chance. Because it is a weight competition, a cumulative weight competition over 2 days, I really wanted to obviously draw another skimmer area. However, unfortunately, I didn't. I drew an area where there was only a few pound from it the day before, and it's a little bit shallower there, and there were roach. So I just kind of obviously went there optimistic. I went there and fished for skimmers from the start, just to see if there were going to be some there, or to see if my approach would catch some there, because obviously, as you'd expect, people fish in different ways, different styles, and I wanted to see if my style could catch some skimmers there. However, after about 45 minutes, I didn't catch any, so it was just a case of getting your head down on roach. That's exactly what I did. I fished on a couple of different lines, and I ended up winning my section again, which was, you know, incredibly pleased about. However, unfortunately, you know, it wasn't in one of the big weight sections, so I fell a little bit short on the weight side of things. So I ended up in the top 20, which was obviously really pleased about in an event like that. And then it was a long drive back home, back to Sheffield, and then it was going to be kind of a little bit of a quieter end to the year, with the exception of the small matter of the World Championships in Belgium. For those people that don't know, the World Championships were meant to have been in Ukraine, but obviously with the things that are happening over there, that was never going to happen, so the venue was moved to Belgium. This, again, it was going to be a very interesting event. It was one that I wasn't fishing. Dean Barlow, the England manager, myself as the assistant manager, were there to obviously do as much as we could for the team, for the lads, just to let them focus on the fishing. And what with Richard Wilson Wilson, who came over there with us. There was Graham West, Eddie Bryden. That was our backroom team, if you want to call it that. We were the ones putting everything in place, making sure the bait was organised, making sure everything was in place for the lads, so it just meant that the 6 anglers could purely focus on the fishing. Again, it was a little bit of a roller coaster. We knew it was going to be a difficult venue to work out because there were different fluctuations in variations in depth in the different sections, and we knew the draw would be important. However, after day 1 we thought we may have drawn out of it, but as the day panned out, it turned out completely different. As you can imagine, an event like that, the England manager is overseeing all of the sections. You know, he always wants to know what's going on so that we can place the anglers the best we possibly can, so we know how well or poor they are actually doing in each section. However, for me, I was to focus on the same section both days. That was going to be D section. It was one that went round a big bend, and on day 1 I was running the bank for Steve Ringer, and then on day 2 I was on the same section again, and that was for Lee Kerry. And that was pretty much my world for the 2 days. I didn't have to worry about the other sections. I didn't have to worry about what was going on elsewhere. Obviously, you know, what we knew was happening was good to know, but my focus was obviously to assist Steve on day 1 and Lee on day 2, to kind of position them in the section, let them know how our tactics were performing in relation to all the other nations. And to be quite honest, it was a shock when we found out that we'd got a silver medal. We were working the scores out, both myself and Dean Barlow, straight after day 2 back at the van. We were working them out, trying to figure out where the lads were and place them, and all of a sudden it popped up that we were actually second, and we were going to be heading home back to England with a silver medal. It's an incredible experience being part of that setup. You know, I've been a part of that setup for a number of years. For the lads to come away with a silver medal, it was always going to be a tight event. You know, in events like that, 1 point here, 1 point there, it can be found anywhere. You know, and to come away with a silver medal on that venue was just absolutely fantastic. It was an incredible experience, and you know, the whole team, the whole squad as a unit did absolutely fantastic. This is a great opportunity to thank each and every one of the channel subscribers to this channel. For this channel to hit 30,000 subscribers is just mind-blowing, especially when you think it's based on throwing a plastic pig, as people refer to feeder fishing. It's been an incredible journey, and to be quite honest, you know, some of you have been around from day 1, and I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who supported this channel along the way. I want to say thank you to Matrix, to Sauna Baits, and to Bait Tech, who were there for me in the early days. And to be quite honest, this channel's only really just got going. There are so many more things coming through next year, and if you are one of those subscribers and one of the viewers, thank you very much. It's hugely appreciated. It's been an incredible year in so many ways. There are so many things that have happened on the bank. There have been so many changes regarding this channel, and there's been so many changes in my life as well over the last few months. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported this channel and just followed the journey. I honestly believe that this journey has only really just got going. I've got so many filming projects for you to produce for this channel, and I really hope you're going to be joining us along the way.